Adobe just launched their brand new AI tool, Adobe Firefly, and everybody is talking about it. And you've probably got a few questions like, what does it mean for After Effects artists, animators, and motion designers? Is it going to be helpful to me? And what do my clients think of it? Well, we're going to answer all these questions, but first, let's get into the features. So the main tools they've released so far with Adobe Firefly is text to image, which is very similar to something like Midjourney. So I think that this is really interesting because it's going to be situated eventually within your Creative Cloud tools. So I think that is going to be really, really exciting when that happens. And I think also it makes it a little bit easier because you don't have to go into something like Discord or something like that to get these images. I'd be really excited to see when I get access to the beta about how this compares to Midjourney and what kind of things you can do with it. But then the other interesting thing, which I believe isn't available in Midjourney, is this text effects tool. So with text effects, we can essentially apply any styles and textures to any font that we want. And I think this could be really useful for having a starting point to create some different kind of styles for your typography animations and things like that. So I think this could be really useful, especially if you're doing some typographic animations, because you can potentially start with this, apply some different textures, play around, get a few different ideas, maybe get sign off from the client, and then go and make some really great 3D or 2D text animations. So I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I'd love to know what you do with this as well. If you're watching this and you already have access to the beta, just let me know below in the comments. I'd love to see what your experience has been like with it. So these are the things that are available to try out right now in the beta. But further down, if we take a look, we can see that they have a lot of things coming. And I think this is where it gets really interesting for motion designers and animators. So inpainting is using a brush to add or remove or replace objects. I think that could be really interesting. Potentially we can use that for rotoscoping, removing images and things like that. But it looks really, really impressive from the video that they've put out. No one has access to that yet with the beta, but I think it looks like it's going to be pretty useful. Also, what I really like is, and they mentioned this in their live stream as well, is that they're talking about how you can get more personalized results. So you can actually input your own images or your own designs and get out your own unique results, which I think is really interesting because obviously there's an issue with copyright and AI at the moment, and no one really knows, where we're going to land on this. There's a really good video from the Corridor crew, so I recommend that you check that out, and I'll leave the link below this video in the description. But I think it's really interesting that at the moment, it seems like Adobe are really focused on this. So that's really important. I want to talk a little bit more about that later as well. So the other thing that I think is really interesting that some of the other platforms haven't done so well yet is actually having a text description to a vector file. So obviously if you use Illustrator for your animations or for your After Effects projects, this is going to be really, really helpful for you because you're going to be able to maybe make a starting design from a prompt instead of tracing over something from a stock image or something like that, for example. So I can see a lot of use cases where this would be really, really helpful for people who love to use Illustrator or like to use shape layers in After Effects as well. So I'm really interested in this 3D to image part of Adobe Firefly. So it'll be really interesting to see how some of you use it when it comes out. And I'd love to know if you're really excited about this. If you're a 3D artist and you think that that would be helpful in your workflow, then let me know below in the comments. Another Firefly tool that's coming up is text to brush. And I think this is going to be really great if you like to create your own brush sets for your designs, because I know that in the past I've always struggled when I've tried to create my own brushes. It's a long drawn out process, and I think that this could potentially be a game changer for motion designers and animators who want to create their own artwork and use their own brushes to paint in different styles. So I want to get into what your clients are potentially thinking about this and how it's going to affect your work. But first, let's talk about how it can help you as a motion designer or animator. So on Adobe's Live, there's a few points that they made about how it can help you as an artist. And those were helping you to make your work quicker, helping you to get ideas to your client faster, and also helping you to make work that you potentially couldn't make before. We also spoke earlier about text to brushes, which is coming soon, and I'm really excited about that as well. And I think that that's really going to help you if before you were creating bespoke brushes for your artwork, now you're going to be able to do that so much easier. A few other things they mentioned was using it for ideation. I can definitely see how we could use this for mood boards as motion designers and animators, but let me know in the comments below how you are using AI in your work, because I really want to see how everyone is using it out there. What I'm really excited about is I could see how you could generate different images and then potentially bring them into After Effects to animate. So you're kind of picking different little ingredients from here and there. And that's something that they mentioned on the live as well, which I think makes a lot of sense. So if you're someone who isn't a fantastic designer or illustrator, I think that this is really going to help you a lot. At least have a starting point for your work where you can go on and create something of your own. Because I remember what I used to do was take a lot of inspiration from stock and things like that and kind of use that as a starting point and then create on top of that when I was a little bit tight for time and I didn't have time to start a design from scratch. So I can see that potentially this is going to replace those kind of things. So what makes Adobe Firefly different from other AI generative tools? So the biggest thing is that it's going to be integrated into the current tools that you use in Creative Cloud like Photoshop, Illustrator, and After Effects, which is going to be really, really great. So it makes it a little bit easier to use. Also, a massive thing is that it's been trained on licensed images and Adobe stock. So I think this is a really great thing for artists, and also it's a great step in the right direction in terms of the issues around copyright and AI images. They also have content authenticity, so you can see that the image is being generated with AI, and I think that this is going to be really, really helpful moving forward. So now let's get on to how this is going to affect your work and potentially what your clients are thinking of it. So the other day I had a chat with a friend who was just about to hire a copywriter, and we spoke to him about how he feels about AI and that copywriters are obviously using a lot of AI tools right now. I think it's a little bit less prominent in the design industry at the moment, but certainly in the copywriting industry, people are definitely using things like ChatGPT to help them to make their work. And his response was kind of interesting. He was talking about how he didn't mind if they use these tools as a starting point, if it helped their work and helped him give the outcome that he wanted for his business. What his problem was is if they were using this to take shortcuts and the work suffered in the process. So I thought that was a really great way of thinking about it. And I imagine that's how a lot of our clients will think about it too. So now you know what Adobe Firefly can do for you. If you want to learn about more AI tools and how they can help you in your work, then you should watch these videos next.